Hello, and welcome to our Marketing Monday. Today, we are looking at the future of SEO for our live stream. So, if you're watching the replay, then feel free to ask any questions in the comments below the video. We are particularly thinking about it in light of the algorithm updates that Google did back in March and what they mean for AI generated content. So I've got some slides to keep us on point. And if you have any specific questions, obviously feel free to ask away. And then we can dive in and spend some time being nerdy together. Let me grab my Canva slides and do a little screen share. And do let me know where you're tuning in from as well, and what your relationship with SEO is like. Do you love it? Do you find it a little bit stressful? Because there's pros and cons to the updates that have come out over the last year or so. So we can chat through that in more detail as well. So slides for today. So we're going to be thinking through the way that organic visibility is changing and what you need to do about it as a small business owner for this episode of Marketing Monday. So I'm Maneksha and I'm a professional nerd. Those of you who have watched Marketing Monday before may already know that I started out my online marketing journey as an SEO back in 2005, and I still just love me a little bit of nerdy marketing. So I teach SEO for the University of the Arts London and for Ella Education. It is still something that I spend a lot of time, reading about, and obviously the implications of AI for it, because artificial intelligence and this sort of generative side of artificial intelligence in particular do lean on the sort of algorithms and the technology that have been used in search for a number of years already. So I am the creator and founder of Marketing Magic, which helps you unsubscribe from overwhelm and grow your business instead of your to-do list. I have recently added a really cool SEO magic feature, which we're going to be using in SEO in a Weekend, my live training that's happening at the weekend. And the reason that is relevant is because back in the olden days, SEO used to be a much more manual process and it required a lot of time to complete. So back in the sort of mid 2000s, when I was doing SEO writing, for instance, you would have to manually research keywords. You would have to make a decision about the exact phrase that you wanted to optimize an article for. You would need to then write that article with that keyword phrase exactly written in it a number of times in order to make sure that the Google algorithm understood what the context and content of the page was. If it didn't have that exact keyword phrase in it a certain number of times, you were less likely to get found via Google. And that was like a really key thing. So that came with a side of content stuffing, keyword stuffing, where you would see a lot of really low quality articles because people were just writing articles that had this keyword in it a certain number of times. And then Google has done like different algorithm updates that have basically penalized that kind of content, removed it from its index and so on. So Google's always had this pattern of, noticing that there's a loophole. People have abused the loophole. Google has closed the loophole relatively aggressively, meaning that anyone who used it has lost their organic reach. And so anyway, back to the sort of manual tasks of SEO, we'd be thinking through things like keyword research and the amount of, just research that had to be done even before you began, building out landing pages, creating content strategies, all of those things had to be done very manually. And the time involved in that is what agencies, have charged for in terms of retainers. For this amount, we'll give you a certain number of SEO titles and descriptions per month. We'll make sure that a certain number of URLs are optimized. So all of the pricing of SEO, the packages of SEO were kind of around this fact that it was a very manual process. And then over the years, we've got tools like SEMrush and Mars and Ahrefs and tools like that have kind of automated some of that research process, but they're still really expensive for the average business owner. And there still needed to be a degree of manual work involved. So again, SEO, a sort of high level, felt like it was quite inaccessible for a lot of business owners. And then what we've seen with AI is that a lot of the tasks that you previously would have had to do manually, you can now do really, really quickly. So whether it's getting different keyword ideas, whether it's creating actual page content, whether it is, getting specific information about how to optimize a particular web page as well. There's just a whole host of ways in which the tasks associated with SEO can be done a lot more effectively. What SEO really comes down to is how effectively your content is getting in front of the people who need your content and who need your business. And so the methodology of how that happens has changed as Google has made many different algorithm updates over the years. Now, AI has been an interesting one because Google has been using artificial intelligence in its algorithms since around 2017, 2018. You can start to see it documented where machine learning was a really key part of their algorithm updates. That's why we no longer need to have exact match keywords on a page. So I always use the example of like a dentist in Nottingham, right? The 2005 method of optimizing that page would be to say, are you looking for a dentist in Nottingham? On this page, you'll find a list of all of the Nottingham dentists that you can find in Nottinghamshire. And you've got this kind of sense of repetition. And that's, the exact match keywords, different ways of wording the exact same thing, but those exact phrases had to be in there. Now, with the updates that Google has done over the years, because machine learning can pick up context a lot more effectively, it's sort of the semantic relationship of words has not needed that exact exacting level of optimization because Google's machine learning understands context. It understands if you talk about, an apple that has fallen off a tree versus an Apple laptop based on the wider context of the content. So we've already benefited from that. And people who have used, Google ads and that kind of thing will probably be a lot more aware of the idea of like exact match versus like broad match keyword phrases. So AI has already been cooking behind the scenes to make it easier for you to create good quality content for your ideal audience, because instead of having to, manually make sure that search phrases are in your content, you've been able to just focus on creating good quality content and have that be found. So when we look at AI, this was something that I mentioned in my email newsletter today, but I wanted to address it particularly on the live stream because it is a slightly more complicated explanation of why generative AI is not able to completely replace search engines. So the idea of like people going to TikTok or ChatGPT to ask questions instead of a search engine is still a user behavior that we're seeing as a trend. However, the factual accuracy of large language models is always going to be a concern because of how they're built. So in order for a large language model to be to know something, it has to be trained on that data. And so if you don't train it with specific data, it will give you a guess and it's the best guess. So sometimes that guess is going to be accurate. Other times it's going to give you absolutely made up facts that have no bearing whatsoever. And so even with Google's like generative AI, and they're looking at updating their interface with the Google's, we'll look at it in a minute, but Google's like generative search and how they're adding that in, they're having to be super careful about how they roll that out because generative AI and these large language models have a tendency to make facts up, and they have got to be trained on the data in order for the results to be accurate. That retraining process is extremely, extremely expensive. And so when we think about machine learning, what we are seeing is people, putting models out like, OpenAI's GPT model. If they have to, the machine learning exists, but if they want to unlearn anything or relearn anything, that is a process that can cost like $5 million. So they have to really, really spend quite a lot of time making sure that the actual data that the large language model needs has been trained into the system. And that is different from the kind of machine learning and language processing that Google's search algorithms have done. So that's a bit of a technical explanation for that. But when we look at like ChatGPT, they have just released a feature which let me share my screen and we can actually have a look at this in real time. Bear with me 1 second while I pull it up. So we can have a look at this in real time to see how we go. 1 second. Here we go. Just making sure that we've got the right thing. So if we say, tell me about Maneksha Stewart's AI tool, Marketing Magic, this should work. So it's going to think about it. When you use the main app on your phone, you'll get a little purple icon. So this is providing references to where the content has been pulled from. So it's connected to Bing and it's pulling out that information, but it needs to connect to Bing, the search engine, in order to be able to provide that content. So you oh, interesting. So that's pulled a review from somebody else, and you can also, just see where the sort of key information is linked from. But ChatGPT isn't giving me that information because that is a that requires up-to-date information from a search engine. The search engine is categorizing, the most relevant information in its search engine, and then ChatGPT is pulling from it. So when we look at large language models, when they are pulling information in that looks like it's super relevant or factually accurate, it's because they have been connected to a larger data source in some way rather than that they have it themselves. So we are not going to see something like ChatGPT be able to completely replace a search engine like Bing or Google Search Console because of the technology being quite different, but they can talk to each other and relate to each other. So even though we're seeing changes in user behavior, even if people are going to ChatGPT instead of Google to ask things, our businesses being findable by search engines is still a really important thing for us to bear in mind and to do as business owners, because those search engines, even if it's an AI model telling somebody about what they found, they're still being used, and that's still something that is pulled into those kind of chat interfaces. So I hope that didn't pickle your brain too much. I know it was like a slightly more technical one, but it's quite interesting, I think, to see how the technology, relates, because also with large language models, like they're trained because of all the data on the internet as well. Like the technology for large language models has come out of everything that's in the public domain already. So it's just interesting to see how the technology is developed based on that information, but it also exists entirely separately from it. And it kind of can't be developed in a cheap way in particular. Like it's very, very cost prohibitive. It's also why when you're using large language models like ChatGPT, GPT's OpenAI, Claude from Anthropic, and so on. It's why it's important that the company who is developing the large language model care about what they're doing and care about doing it ethically. Because if you train a large language model on data that is, fundamentally, racist or sexist or xenophobic in any way, they need to retrain that model in order to get rid of that. So it's really, really important that we take the development of AI language models seriously when it comes to the data quality that is being used. And that's often, where we see problematic things coming out into the chat interfaces. It's because of a development process, but that relearning that they have to do is very, very expensive. So there's a whole safety angle behind it as well, but that's a conversation probably for another time. So it means that search engines are changing, even though the ChatGPT and generative AI isn't replacing SEO, and we still need to be cognizant of search findability for our websites. But there are a lot of things that are coming out that Google in particular are doing. So if I just circle all the way back to that example that I gave you about keyword stuffing, where Google did an update that removed all of the content that just said, dentist in Nottingham, find your dentist in Nottingham here, dentist in Nottingham exist in many parts of Nottingham, and content that just is really unreadable if you're a human person and not very useful at all. So Google updated its algorithm to get rid of all of that. What it's now doing, and what we saw happen in March, is Google is stopping AI generated spam content, generic stuff that is just literally someone's put a basic prompt into ChatGPT and said, write me a blog post on this article, and then published it on their website. Those types of things are going to be penalized by Google. They're going to be removed from the index because they are not quality. Google doesn't want all of the results on the internet to just be AI generated text all the time, because also then you end up in a consistent loop of AI training AI, if that is all that there is out there. So from a content quality perspective, they don't want AI generated content to be taking up loads of space in the internet. The internet already has too much content on it. They want the search results to be high quality. You can use AI to help you with it, but if it has all of the sort of text markers of being completely AI generated, or if it's generic and it isn't useful, then you are not going to get the traffic that you want to get from that content. So that's one part of how they're changing. We've seen that happen. Lots of people have seen a dip in their traffic in March because of this big update that's happened, because not only has it gotten rid of spam content or content that looks like it's primarily been created with generative AI, but they've also gotten rid of anything that looked like it was a low quality page as well. So Google also has its own generative AI rollout happening. So content marketing is fundamentally going to change because of the way that search interfaces are changing. And we're going to look at that in a second off slides as well, because you can go and check it out for yourself. But content marketing is not necessarily going to be as impactful for organic traffic as it has been historically, because at certain points of the customer journey, Google is going to provide a generative AI response to somebody's question. So anything that is an easy question to answer, or isn't a very nuanced or niche answer, Google is potentially going to be able to answer that question for people before they've even clicked into the results that they're seeing organically. And the other side of this is that we are seeing a lot more ads taking up space in the Google search engine results pages than previously. For, again, depending on what the intent is behind the keyword, we're seeing different shopping ads are an example of that, where you are seeing a slightly different interface that is primarily made up of ads and sponsored content. So it's a little bit more pay to play than it has been previously. And that's additionally because the interfaces are having to change because they're looking at pulling in generative AI results. So let's go over and have a little look at that. And let me grab my notes because I did put a link in here. I thought I put it in my Okay. Bear with me a second. Where is my link? Here we go. Supercharging search with generative AI. Here we go. So this is the link. And again, I will pop this in the chat. So if you want to check this out yourself, you can. Let me put it here, generative AI and Google search. So that's in the chat in the comments below, so you can check this out. It's on the screen at the moment. So this is Google's blog, and it is to do with their search product and how generative AI is going to be supercharging search. Supercharging is such an AI word that I do wonder if this was created with AI. But we have got a little interface example here. I'm not going to play it because I don't want to like break any I don't want to break any intellectual property rules or anything like that. But this gives you an idea of how the interface can change when we are seeing the generative AI feature that Google is planning to roll out into search. There will still be links to things. What we're seeing with, and again, if we pull back my chat GPT, I've got too many tabs open and not enough of them are shared in the right way. So let me double check what I did with, where did I put my chat GPT tab? So what we can see is that when GPT, large language models, generative AI, link with search engines, they are providing references. They are being built and they're being told to reference information, find the information, present only that information, and provide your source. So when we look at this generative AI result, I have so many opinions and feelings about this, but what we're seeing is a generative AI summary from multiple sources. So the sources are being linked, and Google has used its AI to summarize them into one piece. Now, what that means is that potentially none of these content sources is going to get that click, even though they've paid their team, they've got their content asset, etc. Like, I don't personally, this opens the whole like can of worms around like the ethics of reusing somebody's content and what it looks like to use things fairly, etc. But what we're seeing here is generative AI summary, and they've probably taken the 3 articles from those 3 pages, and then AI has summarized them into one 3 to 4 paragraph piece of text. It's really not rocket science what they're doing when it comes to integrating it onto the interface of Google. Because it is ultimately, they've already got the technology, they've already got the generative AI. They're just taking other people's content and summarizing it into the interface in a way that means that people now don't get those clicks over to their website. So the start of the customer journey is very different, looking at this model of how the internet works, and answering generic content questions is no longer going to get you the traffic that it has gotten you previously, because people are using generative AI to get the like broad brush picture of something, and then they're going to find more nuanced and niche information elsewhere. So this is still in beta. It is not a rolled out feature yet, and there's a whole lot of information about it on this page, which you can go and check out. There's also generative AI, shopping features and different bits and pieces that you can kind of see when it comes to different types of intent. I could talk about this for probably 3 to 5 business days, but that is an easy place to begin to have a look at it. And it also just kind of shows you that there is still going to be space. We don't know how users are going to respond to this as well en masse. It is still in beta. It could be that this becomes like the ads where people have very low trust because it is put at the top of the fold, it's ads or it's AI generated, and they actively decide they want to go and find something that has been created by a real person. We don't know how people en masse are going to deal with this when it comes to the actual user trust levels if it rolls out on across like all of the search engines. So there's a lot of factors here that we could end up seeing. Yes, generative AI is there, but we're still going to see some good results for organic stuff because people trust the organic results more than they trust their AI given or the paid results. So that's also something that we can take in mind, take into account as well. So the interfaces are being updated, and we are just basically seeing a change in how things are presented in terms of organic search. Now, what does that mean for us as small business owners? The first thing is that you really do need to know who your customer is. The key elements that are going to set you apart from generative AI are the things that make you a unique business owner and make you uniquely qualified to work with your clients and customers. What is it that you know about them? What do you know they struggle with? What problem do you solve for them? What do you understand about your customer? And then you can create the right content for those people. The idea of like niche and understanding who your business is for is going to be a really key asset for you in terms of like your intellectual property assets, the things that you create and that you know about your business, the things that are bringing you a return on investment. So knowing your customer matters the most, and that is understanding who they are, what they need, and how you can talk to them as impactfully as possible. So that's something that you'll see mentioned a lot in marketing jargon when it comes to like personalization. Personalization is ultimately big businesses, big brands who've got big teams trying really hard to seem relatable. So they're like, oh, we need to add personalization as a marketing strategy because they're so big and so disconnected from their ideal customer that they need to create a whole ass strategy out of it. Now, if you are a small business owner, you are closer to your customers because you're the person answering customer service emails, you're seeing people's comments, you're engaging with people, you're the one talking to them on social media. That is genuinely something that big businesses pay hundreds of thousands of dollars minimum, like up all the way up to like hundreds of millions of dollars to create in their own businesses, because they fundamentally know that if you relate to people and have a conversation with them like they're real humans, you can sell them stuff and all that kind of thing. So understanding who your customers are, understanding how you can talk to them is known as personalization, when you then meet them at the point of their customer journey with the right message for that time. So some examples of this, and I have talked about Jonas Galt's chatbots club, but chatbots are a really interesting way of adding some personalization into your marketing. So we're not talking about necessarily virtual assistant like style chatbots where people are like, oh look, I've turned my I was paying a virtual assistant and now I've turned them into a chatbot, so now I don't need to pay a virtual assistant now. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about ways that people can engage with specific things based on a problem that they have. So let's say you've got a lead magnet or a PDF, or I once for Cheerfully Given created a Christmas gift guide chatbot. Basically, people could sign up for it, and then depending on who they were shopping for, they could get some like curated ideas, and those ideas were for like the people who are hard to shop for, so things that are maybe a bit harder to find on the website, or they just were like thinking about it in a slightly different way. And that got such great engagement from people because it's the 20th of December and you don't know what to buy your dad for Christmas. That was something that people could engage with, and it was giving them like specific next steps, but they could kind of choose their own adventure. So I guess the question that I'm going to ask you for the action item here is, when it comes to like knowing your customer, what is the choose your own adventure that you would give to your customer? And then how can you create that in your marketing? And that is going to help you meet people at the core points that they're making decisions about what it is that they need and what step to take next. So know who your customer is. What does this look like? Customer research, customer insights, mapping your customer journey, understanding what jobs your customer is trying to do. And just for the sake of showing you how AI can help with this, let's go to Marketing Magic and have a little look at where you could do this. Bear with me a second while I log in. I have so many different accounts for this at the moment, but let's go over here and customer journey. So customer journey map for mapping out different stages of the customer journey. This is part of knowing who your customer is, knowing what they're doing some customer research, understanding a little bit more about them, not just their demographics, but also their psychographics, their behavioral tendencies, what are the things that they value, what are the things that drive their decision making, all of that good stuff. And then my favorite customer jobs to be done, I am going to create this while we're talking, because this is a really good example of how you could create a choose your own adventure. Start with a customer jobs to be done statement, and then take it from there. And it might be that you have 4 different lead magnets or 4 different categories that you of products that you sell, and you're like, okay, I want to create a chatbot that helps people know which category is best for them. These customer jobs to be done statements are super helpful. So the jobs to be done framework is a product management tool, and it's like a well-used tool in the product management industry. But let's just say I want to implement search engine optimization strategies. So when I am experiencing a plateau in my website traffic, I want to implement SEO so that I can improve my website's visibility, attract more organic traffic, and increase my conversion rates. So if we were going to do a choose your own marketing adventure, I might have something that says, what is it that you want to, what are you struggling with right now? And they could select, oh, I'm having a plateau in my website traffic, or I'm getting ready to launch something, or I want to understand my customers. And then based on them selecting that, they then get a follow-up message that says, great, here are some resources for how you can increase your organic visibility and optimize your conversion rate. Or here's a launch checklist and a 20-minute sales page tool. Or if it's the customer one, here's how to understand what your customer is trying to do, meta, for us to be talking about that. And here's how to, map your customer journey template. So when you are thinking through the idea of a customer journey, what we're doing with organic search is the start of this with blog posts and things like that. It's also providing products and information that solve the so that's as well. But when we're doing our marketing, we're taking the when and we're leading people through to the so that. So customer jobs to be done. Again, this is where AI helps with SEO, right? I talk about this, but I cried the first time I did the customer journey map, because these would take 100 hours of research, of pulling things together, of formatting, and you can literally just generate them. It takes less than 3 minutes to generate a whole customer journey map. So anyway, with the Know Your Customer, those are the tools that are going to help you to start to document some of that insight. And you, as a small business owner, will know a lot of that information without even realizing that you know it, just because you've been to, and especially if we think about creative businesses, if you've been to markets and talked to people and observed them interacting with your products, you have read your Etsy reviews, you have answered customer service emails, you have engaged with people in your Instagram DMs. All of those things that you have not necessarily documented are still things that you know. And so when you start to do some of this documentation, like your customer journey, a lot of that is going to seem very familiar to you, and it makes it a really enjoyable process because it often reaffirms things that you do already know to be true about your business and your audience. Build your audience on your own platforms, just in the interest of not getting too normally I try to do half an hour of content and then questions, but I always get too much into SEO. So we're going to keep it moving, and then we've got questions in just a second. So build your audience on platforms that you own. So this is something that is obviously important, because even if organic search settles down and we can still rely on search engines as a reasonable source of traffic, we are going to see fluctuations. We already have seen fluctuations while they roll out new updated algorithms and while things are settling. So there is still going to be an impact on the amount of traffic that you're getting potentially, and making sure that you are planning for the worst is always a good thing to do. And that looks like building out your own marketing channels, like things that you own. So yes, you've got your website. Yes, you've got, people coming to that, but we also want to look at how we can continue to follow up with people through things like email marketing. We don't want to take it for granted that things like a Facebook group are always going to be available, or the amount of organic traffic that we're getting is always going to be available. There is so much flux and change that's happening at the moment that we do need to have a clear understanding of ownership when it comes to what we're building out. And the other way that you can build out platforms that you own, things that you own, is by thinking about your content marketing as assets for your business. So I was working on a podcast pitch tool for Marketing Magic last week. And to test it out, I pitched a whole load of different podcasts. I am currently, by the way, at 13 interviews, if anyone's kept track of that since my email that went out on Thursday. So I'm at 13 interviews since Thursday. Now, that's other people's assets, right? I'm going and sharing my expertise on those platforms for them to interview, but they have that episode then as a content asset in their business. And that content asset can generate attention and traffic and provide, something for people to engage with on multiple different platforms. It's not just on Apple Podcasts, it's also on Spotify podcasts and on other platforms where you can engage with podcasts. So even if you're putting your marketing on somebody else's platform, you want to think about the marketing that you're creating, the content that you're creating as an asset that you own. And then when a new platform comes around or a platform's algorithm is updated, you can be chill because you know that your marketing, your message, your content can be applied to a whole host of different platforms. And you just having that ready will make it feel a lot less stressful if and when changes to algorithms happen, because there's always going to be new platforms, new communities, new audiences, new, LinkedIn is an example of something that a lot of people are going back to at the minute, professionally and for more corporate spaces in particular. There's always going to be trends in the online space, and whether you're having the conversation on Discord or you're having it on Reddit or YouTube or Facebook or in your blog or on a forum circa 2004 or whatever it was when we were all doing forums, you can still take that marketing content, that marketing message, and you can still have those conversations. It's just that they're going to be had in a slightly different way. So build your audience on platforms that you own. And then the sub point to this that I haven't documented is think about your marketing as assets, like your content assets, so that you feel comfortable when it comes to platform transitions. Third, optimize your user's journey and experience on your website. So the really core thing that I can tell you is that your website is not a soapbox about you. It is not somewhere for people to come and just like fawn at the absolutely iconic like platform that is you. You are amazing. You are wonderful. You are exquisite. Some people might come because they're just like, majorly fangirling over this person right now. But that is not the purpose of your website. The purpose of your website is to take your user from the when statement to the so that statement. So they have a goal. It's been caused by something for them, and they want to reach that goal. So what we want to do with your website is when people arrive on it, we want to make sure that choose your own adventure that you have created for them is easy for them to engage with. So your hero section, like for me right now on my website, I've got a bit about me at the top of my website, but let's say I could update that to be like, the future of SEO, find out everything you need to do to optimize your website in 2024. And then they might scroll down and they'll see Marketing Magic for, short on time, get your marketing done and save 40 hours a month. And so I've got different sections on my homepage that are going to address different things that people might need to do, the problems that they've got, the solutions that I can give them. But we're very much thinking about it as, is there a very clearly signposted way for somebody who visits my website to find easy ways of getting to how I can help them? So that looks like optimizing your navigation menu, making sure that what you do is very obvious. Anytime I'm reviewing someone's website, a core piece of feedback that I will give often is about optimizing your navigation menu. So let's just have a look at that in real time. Again, I'm aware of how long I've talked for tonight. So this is my own website. I actually have put my All Things AI podcast episodes here. Work With Me is there as a tab. But normally I would say title that as something like marketing VIP days, or, something that's much more relevant to the Work With Me package. And then for freebies, I've got free marketing resources, freebie exchange, podcast, and blog, and then try the app there. So to optimize this, I would keep all things AI because it's topically relevant there. But I could have, artificial intelligence for small business owners. I could put like AI here, and then I could have, sustainable marketing for small businesses here. But I'm making sure that basically this bit of my website has topically relevant things and calls out my ideal customer. And then marketing VIP days, this could be resources, marketing resources, and then the call to action there. Often if you are, a service provider, you might have like book a discovery call or something. But anyway, let's go to all things AI. So let's say, you come to this website, you're like, I'm interested in AI. This is a mini series, and people can either listen to Future of the Internet or all things AI. And then there's a little call to action for taking that next step, which is get a free trial of Marketing Magic for 7 days. And then the episodes all here, and then there's another call to action for the Marketing Magic tool here. So that is, giving people the option to engage with the content, but also then to take that next step because they're interested in AI. So listening to content around that, but also then this is how you can use AI to save yourself 40 hours a month. So when you're thinking through your navigation menu, every time someone lands on a page, there should be an easy next step for them to take that has a little bit more commitment in it than it had before. So often with like your blog, if we go over to blog posts, we are going to, read content, and then I might have picked the wrong one here. But basically with a blog post, you're going to have content, and then the call to action is typically going to be join my mailing list or read another blog post. And then we've also got, listen to the podcast there as well. So when you're optimizing your website, and we're talking about optimizing your customer journey, the simplest way to explain what that is without you getting lost in a wormhole on the internet is each page of your website should be about one thing. It should be about that one thing in a really high quality way. And that's where your content and SEO comes in. Are you using the right keyword phrases to make sure that topically you've got a very clear context for the page? You're not having to do keyword optimization in that exact way, but you are having to make sure that everything is relevant and contextually excellent and high quality. And what is the one thing that you want people to do when they're on that page? Is it easy for people to find their way to the solutions that you have to offer in your business, whether they are free solutions that help them get quick wins and get them onto your mailing list, whether they're blog posts that help, people explore a little bit more about your area of expertise, about your business, things that are inspiring, things that are educational, things that are going to give people a little slice of whatever it is you have to offer, and your paid products and services. So are people able to find their way through to those things as well? So when we talk about search engine optimization in the future, if we are wanting to do it in an efficient way, in a way that doesn't take, huge amounts of time, learning, and energy, what we are doing is focusing on who our ideal customer is, understanding what we do as business owners, and then making sure that our website, navigation menu, page content, etc., and any pages that we create moving forward reflect the things that our real customers need and allow us to show them how. So search engine optimization is the jargon, but ultimately that is what we're doing, and that is what Google wants us to be doing. They want web pages that provide quality, relevant, authoritative content and that solve users' problems, and they've talked about that in their ranking factors for a number of years. We can use AI to help us create those pages, and I do all that stuff in Marketing Magic. We've got the Website Magic, which is launching before the SEO in a weekend program on Friday and Saturday. So for things like landing pages, for content pillars, for article pages that are going to help you create the sort of structure of educational and authoritative content for your website. all of that is going to help you build out these pages. But if you don't know who your customer is really well, then you're going to struggle, because ultimately your ability to create quality content rests on you knowing what your customers would find to be quality content, if that makes sense. So, time for questions. This has been so long, and I did not intend for it to be, 20 minutes over time, but hopefully it's helpful, and it hopefully is also reassuring, because there's a lot of people panicking at the moment about the fact that SEO is dead. SEO has been, Google doesn't want SEO to be needed. Google doesn't want people to have to optimize the content in a certain way. They want it to be, easy and streamlined and straightforward. Like, SEO as a practice in the marketing space shows that Google is not doing the most it can be doing with its technology, because fundamentally it's about, making sure that content is findable by something that is designed to they're meant to be able to find content with it. So again, I'm really hoping that this hasn't made you feel more confused about things, because I'm constantly trying to filter out a lot of the jargon that comes with the space. But ultimately, when we think through the future of SEO, we are continuing this journey of what is the easiest way for our ideal customers to find what they're looking for, and how do we optimize our websites, our website content for that. So hopefully that all makes sense. If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. I will answer them after the call if you're watching the replay. And I will, okay, Ali's question. I'm excited to hear more about SEO and how AI and Marketing Magic can help. Okay, so I'm going to show you this in Marketing Magic, at the risk of never wanting to make these like a look how cool Marketing Magic is every Monday, but also look how cool Marketing Magic is, because this is a really fun one. So let's just have a little look at how AI helps us with SEO tasks. So in Marketing Magic, you can add in your web pages, and we have got a few that are pre-populated because I've already done some of these demos elsewhere. But literally all you do, and let's actually do it in real time. Just so you can see how quick and easy it is. Free resources, just for the sake of completion. So you literally just give it a nickname, add the URL, boom, it's there. And then if we go over to the SEO Magic website tools, we're going to pick the All Things AI webpage, and then we can get some keyword suggestions based on the page content. So this is one of the things that we're going to be going through for SEO in a weekend. It's why you will be able to get 4 to 6 months worth of work done in 2 short days worth of a lot of the 2 days is Q&A calls and feedback. But here we go. So keyword suggestions, these are all the kinds of things that you could use when it comes to optimizing the page content for All Things AI, because they all relate to what the AI episodes are talking about. And then you can also get SEO title and description options, which are not going to be optimized for specific keywords, because we've already kind of talked this evening about how exact match keywords aren't the most important thing. What we want to make sure we've got is SEO titles and descriptions that are as highly relevant to the page content as possible. And so there's basically 5 different suggestions, and you can kind of pick. I do like Franken descriptions often, and I'll pull out my favorite bits from a couple, but you get the SEO title and description options for the page. And then this takes a little bit longer to generate. But if you're particularly looking at a sales page or your home page, or a page that is a substantially important part of your brand, and you want to make sure that it's as well optimized as possible, the improvements and actions are going to give you 15 different tasks that you can work through to refine and update your content, to make it more visible to search engines and to make it more useful for your ideal audience and for people who visit. So that is going to give you some action points as well, just in terms of the specific pages. And it is obviously very directly relevant to the actual web content there as well, because we've got, and we can see examples of that. So that's from an SEO magic perspective, the way in which we can optimize pages is so vastly improved from 20 years ago, when you had to manually insert the exact phrase a number of times over the course of an article. And so the positioning of content and of making sure that you're really answering the needs of your customers is much easier, because all of the things that have taken a substantive bulk of time in the past can now be done with generative AI to help you get the momentum going. So that is just to kind of give you a little highlight of how the SEO side of things works, and we'll be talking more about that at the weekend. Is this only in the pro version of ChatGPT? I don't believe it is. I need to double check that actually, Ali, because I do have the pro ChatGPT because of the amount of research that I do on language models, and I test the results from things for the same types of questions. So I'll double check that. But I would, if it is only on the paid version at the moment, it will for sure be something that comes, I think, into the main tool itself, because of how many issues there are with AI hallucinating. It's called hallucinating when it just makes stuff up. So I think that it is something that will get rolled out on the non-paid account as well. Okay, cool. So only 15 minutes in. Awesome. So that's really a wrap for today's Marketing Monday. I know I talked for longer than I normally do with them, but there's so much jargon in both the SEO and the AI spaces that ultimately makes it feel a lot more stressful than it needs to. And there is more panic in the SEO space at the minute, because there are people who are like, I'm going to have to completely redesign my career. And it's like, well, we always knew that that was going to be the case. It's an emerging technology. The whole issue of technology is that it constantly, innovates on itself as well. So it's going to change again. But the core skill behind SEO is just understanding who your customer is, what they need, and how you can talk to them. And that is something that, if you are able to use a tool like Marketing Magic, when it comes to customer insights, understanding the customer journey, having those conversations, it does make your marketing resilient to some of these algorithm changes. And one of the things that I was quite interested to see, I was talking to my friend about it, was there's a business called O Squirrel. It's run by Katie. She's lovely, and she has just a gorgeous stationery and gifting brand. And when I was doing some research last year, I was asking ChatGPT for suggestions for different niches within the creative business suppliers and art spaces. And it was fascinating, because when you ask ChatGPT for people who do a certain thing, it would give you websites that Google would never rank in a million years, because of how outdated they were, because of how poor quality the mobile experience was. They were still in business, but they've just never updated their website. But ChatGPT has obviously been trained on data that has, and all the data on the internet that is historic stuff as well. So as far as ChatGPT is concerned, it's just looking for connections for what you've asked it, and it doesn't care if the website is good quality, because it's just giving you, oh, these are the things that are topically related to what you've asked me. Anyway, Katie's business, O Squirrel, got suggested to me when I asked for luxury letterpress stationers in England, and Katie doesn't do letterpress. So that was, an oddity in and of itself. But also, when people ask ChatGPT for certain questions, the likelihood is that there will be responses that are based on the historic data it's been trained on that could be you, right? People could be asking it, and it could be giving you as a suggestion. And we're going to see that be a little bit easier with the my doorbell's just gone. We're going to see that be a little bit easier with the and the dogs are going mad now as well, so I'm just going to be totally unable to finish a sentence. I apologize. So what was I saying? We're going to see that be more and more commonplace because of how, you know, ChatGPT is integrated with Bing, and it's pulling that information in from more recent search results as well. So that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. And if you have any follow-up questions, please let me know. Love chatting about this stuff. Always joke with Andrew about that, you know, if you've seen the Barbie movie, Ken's job is beach. I feel like my job is internet, just in terms of like my interest in all of this stuff. But when it comes to the way that content, you know, the reason that I started getting into AI was because of Google's algorithms changing back in like 2017, 2018, and bringing in this machine learning. The sort of underlying principles of data-based navigation and how it's used to create new technologies are all just super, super interesting to me, but they are keenly connected as well. So it'll just be a case of seeing how Google responds to some of this, and actually, as business owners, are we going to have to start considering what paid ads look like and how we can, you know, budget based on doing paid advertising a little bit more, because the organic era of the internet might be not as we have experienced it so far. Anyway, all of those things are topics for future Marketing Mondays. So I will leave it there for today. If you do want to come to SEO on a weekend and you can't make it on the weekend because you've got best things to do than be nerdy, there are replays available, and I am happy to send the link over. If you get my emails, there was information about it in today's email. If you're a Marketing Magic customer, you do get a discount on that, and we will be using Marketing Magic to help us with some of those tasks, but it's time zone friendly, and the Q&As and things will be time zone friendly, and there'll be follow-up Q&As that are also time zone friendly. So let me know if you have any questions at all, but otherwise I will see you next week for another Marketing Monday, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week.